Okay. Tuesday afternoon meeting. We changed from Wednesday to Tuesday, so we'll just turn it over.
Great. Thank you, Commissioners. Mike Moss, Public Services Director, along with Sean Rowe, our Finance Manager, Susan Eugenius, our County Engineer, and Savannah Clement, our Deputy Public Services Director. We're going to start off today on a budget review. The first handout we have is pictures of a D8 and a Mower Max. These are 2 pages of equipment that we bought this year. And so Sean will go over a couple of these items, just to give you some details on those.
First, I just want to say thank you. At the landfill, we were able to purchase a Cat D8 to replace one of our D7s. This is a nice picture of it before it entered the fill and got dirty. Staff really enjoys it, and they really like the heavy machinery up there. The Mower Max replaced our tractor mower that had the side arm on it at our Longview shop. This mower was seen at the Extreme Machines this year for the Parks Department. It's been working well. It's fairly new, and so we're hoping to see a lot more from it.
You turned the page too soon.
Oh,
On the D8, just out of curiosity, how do you know where you are? Does that have all the location stuff on it?
it currently does not have all the GPS equipment in there. We will be moving GPS from some of our older 7s onto the newer equipment as those roll out.
And the cab is equipped with AC and heat and all the niceties?
It's even got a stereo in it.
Yeah, okay. And what's happening to the D7s?
The D7 will be surplus and then sent to auction or disposed of in some other way if there's another government agency that may be interested in it.
Is it something where you'll get a few dollars out of it, or you'll get virtually nothing?
I think we'll get a few tens of thousands, maybe 60 to 70. The older D6 we sent to auction this year came back at around 30, 35,000. So we'll get some return, but not a significant percentage of what it costs.
And the reason we upgraded to a D8?
Yeah, so it's a larger machine, can handle more capacity, can push more, has a better track set, a wider base, and is able to operate up at the landfill better.
Is the landfill considered hard on the bulldozers?
It's considered extremely hard on the undercarriages, the tracks of the machine, just with all the debris that is going through, the dust, the grit, and things of that nature. It does wear those quite fast.
More so than the dust in highway construction?
Yep, even harder than that. Yes, sir.
Oh. And of the Mower Max, what I see on the back end of that is a bladed unit.
Yes, sir. I believe that's a 60-inch blade, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
And that's what you use to trim trees back also?
Anything in the right of way. Is that correct?
We can trim branches and on the trees and the smaller trees. They'll take them right down.
When it does do the trees, it kind of hacks them and it's kind of ugly?
Yes, I'll agree. It's kind of ugly.
Do you get, I think I've heard complaints about that from the public. Is that?
We have received them on occasion, especially when they felt like that it was not in the right of way. That's usually when we get
especially
complaints.
that,
Yes, but we don't get too many of them. They know that it's us trying to keep branches away from the road.
Okay, and then refresh my memory. So do you have impound accounts for these guys?
Yeah, so the Mower Max participates in the ER&R revolving fund, and so there's an hourly rate with that. The Cat D8 would be part of the landfill's L fund, as we build reserves for equipment out of that fund.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
So if they just turn them ugly, just tell them you got the big brush out of the way and they're welcome to go up and clean it up. Tell them Commissioner Weber said so. Have you put a sticker on this D8? Isn't this the one we thought that we could do a riverbed with, right?
It's now got stickers on it. We can cover those up.
The The D7 will be stripped down here soon. And then on the second page here, we have just the 10-yard dump trucks. We received 2 of those in 2024. They came equipped with both snow plows and sand spreaders on the back of them. And then the trailers, 2 60,000-ton trailers that can haul our equipment around behind the dump trucks as well.
You keep these all off a tallieway,
Coming in?
or these? Oh, except at the landfill.
Yeah, so the trailers would be at our outlying shops as well, and same with the dump trucks.
Do you have a dump truck for each of your shops?
Currently, we have 3 dump trucks per shop for the 10-yard variety. And then we'll go on to our 2025 budget review, the green one.
And we'll start off with the landfill, just some highlights here. We don't have a lot of changes with budgets this year, so we're just kind of go over the highlights of some of the major changes or stuff that might be topic of discussion. On page 1 there, a little 7.5 million annual lease payment. That's what we have budgeted for 2025.
Correct.
The same as we had in 2024. So it's a general fund payment. And a couple highlight items for this, for up at the landfill, cell 10 development. We'll start developing the next cell over. Do development in 2025 and then groundwork and liner in 2026.
Correct, construction 26 for cell 10.
And that's about $700,000 to start next year's project. And then we've been doing horizontal gas extraction wells since we've been at the landfills. Now it's time to switch over to vertical wells starting next summer. I think the plan's been in place and looking at next year's spending about $1.7 million on our vertical wells.
Yeah, so these are vertical gas extraction wells that will cover cells 7, 8, 9, and then also parts of Weyerhaeuser on cells 1 and 2 as well. So quite a large endeavor, the first part of it, and something we'll continue to do as the landfill grows.
And once you extracted the gas, it goes up in flames.
It hits the flare, yes, sir.
Sir.
Is there, I'm sure I've asked this before, is there a concept of getting inexpensive compressors and just putting this gas away someplace?
I don't know enough on that to give you a good answer.
Yeah. I'm sure it's at this point probably too expensive, but it's, yeah. You know, it's always bothered me that we flare that stuff. The price of gas here, I mean, if you were in Europe, you wouldn't flare it.
Mm.
They'd do something with it.
And we'll be revisiting the PUD at the beginning of the year to see what next steps on that project will be, if there is next steps. I know we just got reached out again last week by a third party interested in doing something at the landfill. So we're gonna give it one more push with the PUD. And if that falls completely out, then we'll reach out to some of these third parties that have reached out to us and see if there's any options there. And the last bullet point on here is the annual tons accepted. You can see it's gone down a little bit. In 2022, we had 804,000 tons. Last year, 793. We're projecting 760,000 tons this year. And the reduction's mainly been in ASR. We're taking in less ASR for our daily cover because the autofill or auto fluff. We're actually doing a demonstration on Thursday for like a shell types. Sean has more
Yeah,
details on that.
so Thursday, we have a demonstration for the Posi Shell product, and we're going to continue to look at other alternative daily covers that save more of the volume of it instead of selling it. That may be a better product for the landfill itself.
Do we have a contract that says we have to take ASR?
We no longer have any contracts for ASR.
Okay, so that you just buy it on the spot, if you will.
Correct. So that's the main reduction. We were planning on doing about 800,000, but we did, 30 or 40,000 less in ASR, which is good for the landfill and good for us. That's why we're looking at other alternatives for daily cover up there.
And are you at the 800 number you say in 2025, you're going to hit 800?
That's our plan, our goal.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have options to go to 850?
Yeah, we could probably reach out to some of our contracts out there to see if there's any more volume out there to bring our way. We seem to get approached quite often.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the,
So there is nothing holding you back other than normal business transactions. We're not a problem to you.
No, you're not a problem. No.
no, and just one of the considerations we have to keep in.
I
Just-
was trying to gain some leverage here.
One of the considerations when we're talking contracts, though, is the continued growth for some of these that are longer terms. We want to make sure we do have adequate headroom to fulfill our contract length with those.
Got it. How much of a cushion are you thinking you'll have,
Depends on how the state
or
grows.
need, I should say?
Yeah, I don't think we have any additional need right now, but as we continue to bump up our annual numbers, we'll need to reevaluate that.
I'll stop.
So if more questions on the landfill, if not, we'll move to water sewer. We have a few divisions to go through today, but we'll go at your guys' pace. We have plenty of time today. Okay. So I'll turn it over to Susan on the water sewer updates.
So on the water sewer, we are rolling all of our ARPA projects into next year for the main expenses of them. We are looking at, you should see the first one going out to bid the beginning of next month. So we are on track to get at least 4 of these out on the street this year, potentially the 5th one also, but I'm thinking 2 of these will be next year. And we're first going to bring you the Tootle water low pressure zones. That one is correcting 2 issues where we don't have adequate pressure. Those plans, excuse me, are at, the plans are at 100%. We're waiting on the final specifications. We have our WashDOT permit. So once we get the final specifications, we'll clean them up and get that one on the street out for bid. We'll follow that one up shortly thereafter. They're in a photo finish race on which one's going to come next between the Tootle wastewater treatment plant improvements and the Riderwood emergency water. So both of those should be advertised late November, early December. And then we have Shadow Mountain and Camelot Loss. I will be going through, especially as these come in for bid, what the actual dollar amounts are we have coming in so we can see where we are with our reserve, which is part of the reason I was reserving Shadow Mountain to the last project, because that is the one that has the most flexibility. We can change some of the design potentially to lessen costs. So that is why we've been pushing them the way we are, getting them moving forward. Other projects that we're continuing to work on are in mainly Woodbrook. So Woodbrook sewer system, we had gone out, had a consultant to do the plant replacement study because the plant is now obsolete. When they were working with ecology, the response was, oh, before you do that, you need to do an I&I study. So we've backtracked and we're working on our I&I study. Then we'll have to do a project to replace all the pipes. Then we can finish our alternative study and then we can replace the plant. So this is like a multi-year, we're 6-7 years out from before we would be replacing that plant out there. So we're working on that in the background. And then the other thing we wanted to discuss today, kind of bringing up our water sewer rates. So Sean went through, so in the next page in your handout is the water sewer rates for everybody in the rural area across the different jurisdictions. Cowlitz County is in the box. So we've included Kalama, Longview, Woodland, Kelso, and Castle Rock. And these are the rates that county residents pay. So if you pay in this, if you're in the city of Longview, you would pay a different rate, but they up their rates for rural customers. So we're looking to realign our water sewer rates more in alignment on how we're spending the money and how other people are charging. So as you can see, we kind of fell in the middle. That's the order of how they're presented, with the least costs coming from Kalama for combined water and sewer, and the most expensive being Castle Rock. And we fall third from the top with our current rates. So we looked at that, and then the second page, excuse me, the second page, we're looking at options, and we kind of wanted to see what the board's feel was on us moving forward for the rate that we're going to present this year for approval later. So the next page shows our current rates and two different options on how to do an increase this year. So option A was an increase of 5% across the board. So your combined, if you have both water and sewer, you would see an increase of about $9. Option B is an increase of, in total increase of 6.5%. So if you had both water and sewer, it would be a $12 increase. But if you were a water-only customer, you would see a decrease from $79 to $75.
And I'd like to also add in here, these are modeled after the average household having both services and consuming 4 units of water at a time. So it's illustrative for the average customer. I want to make sure that's clear.
And that's where $12 figure.
Yes.
comes from.
Correct.
And again, the numbers are,
For option A, it'd be a 5% increase across the board. And then for
how
option,
many dollars?
come again?
That's how many dollars per hour?
That's
Nine.
about $9.
Oh, right. And the other one, B is 12.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm trying to bring a little context into these as well. I don't know how many of our citizens know that we operate 5 sewer systems throughout the county, and then 4 separate water systems as well. And so it's not just one. Unfortunately, we do have some added costs, and because they're so far away, different types of systems. I know Susan could probably talk about the types of systems we have. They're varieties. And sewer is more expensive to treat than water is.
Especially in our world, we have one water treatment plant that is a full treatment plant. So that is the Riderwood plant. For our Tootle customers, we purchase water from Castle Rock. So we don't treat that at all. For Camelot, we have a well, which just gets chlorine injected into it. The same for Tootle River View. So those are our,
Chlorine, no other treatment.
no other treatment, no settling, nothing. No filtering. The only place we do that is Riderwood, which is why our costs are less expensive, because we only operate one full treatment plant.
Mhm.
And just to be a little more illustrative as well, down the bottom of the page, it talks about our customer base. We have just shy of 1,300 water customers, 860-ish sewer customers. And then total, we have about 1,430. So we have a variety of water only, sewer only, and a combination of the two.
But those numbers like that 1278, that's only water system, or they have a water system and they're also counted in under sewer?
So it's possible they have only water, or it's possible they have both.
Okay. So the number 1431 is a little hard to digest. Not sure what it means.
That's how many people we bill a month.
How many bills you send,
Correct.
and you bill separately, water and sewer?
No.
No, we bill, if you're a water and sewer customer, you get one bill. If you're a water customer, you get a bill. And if you're a sewer customer, you get a bill. So we send out bills, so the people in Ryder would get one bill. The people in Woodbrook who are sewer only get one bill. Same with Tootle. If you have water only, you get a bill. But if you have water and sewer, you also only get one bill.
And so this number 1431.
That is the total number of people who either get water, sewer, or both.
Or both, okay. So that doesn't,
It-
that, the universes don't overlap.
Yes.
They do overlap?
What?
Of course.
Correct. Some of them overlap,
Yeah,
yes.
It's the Venn diagram. You get the middle people.
You get the outliers and the middle people, and they all add up because
But you're not counting twice.
you're not counted twice.
Yeah, we could have gone water only, sewer only, and water sewer, but it still would have came to 1431, but you're right, there's some that overlap that do both.
I think I understand it, but that's not what it says.
Any questions on water sewer? Hopefully, besides that.
I guess what feeling of how you feel about our proposals, what do you want us to present when we're really bringing these forward for a decision?
What are we trying to fix with what do we need?
So we are,
You're getting an extra 115,000 or an
Correct.
extra 100,000. So what's that do for us?
that'll help us moving forward with our projects, building our reserves up, because with our capital projects this year, we have a match on all those ARPA projects. So we're going to spend our reserves all the way to zero potentially. So this will help us be able to put more into future projects, such as that I&I. One of the things that I really want to work on with the crews is this year, we finally replaced a line that they've been talking about needing replacement for the whole 10 years I've been here. They said there were more patches on it than solid pipe. I want to work with the crew to set up a better replacement plan because it will give us the ability to have less water loss and less overtime calls. So these are the kind of ideas we're getting our capital going. And in addition, our overall expenses has gone up besides spending our reserve down with just the COLAs on our crews.
So
What's-
our
What's in reserves now?
$4.6 million.
Let me see, I wrote it down.
Sorry, I'm going off my head here. And then just to
How
clear,
much do you put in each year?
750,000.
Do we have projects every year or when's the last time we had any major projects?
So the last time we had a major project was at least 10 years ago, and that is why we're behind. We currently, in my notes from before, we currently have 4,589,000 approximately, and we have very close to that same amount as our match on the ARPA projects. So once we spend the reserve down, we're going to need to build it back up to do the I&I project that we need to do, which is why when I talked about the projects going out, I was going to very carefully look at that last project.
And for quite a few years.
It's been 10 years since we did anything, right? So if you had 5-year gaps, you'd be back to your 4 million in there at 750 a year,
Correct,
right?
yeah. Correct. And for quite a few years after the last project, I don't think they're putting I know they weren't putting 750 a year. We've been doing that the last few budget cycles to get that caught back up again.
Yeah, we started that in 2019. Prior to 2019, there were no contributions for 4 years.
And I believe the last big project before was a Ryderwood pipe replacement project. They did sometime in the mid-2000s. I know they did that project.
So how much in reserves do you need for this iron whatever project you're
So
talking
what is currently in the reserves is the 4.5. The I project, let me see if I have the number written down, because I don't want to give you a false number in these notes that I made up before. So our future projects, 3.5 million for the I replacement, and that is not, so it's, excuse me, I misread the line. It's a $3 million project for the I, and then we're going to do the treatment plant alternatives and the plant replacement, and that replacement will either be building a new plant or piping it somewhere, and that current estimate is at $4 million. So those are the two big future projects that are short-term, and then there's some longer-term projects, one in Riderwood, which is estimated at $2 million. And if at some point in the future, we want to upgrade Camelot, because the Camelot neighborhood does not have fire flow capability right now, that is another $2 million project on the books. Or projected
about. And the
project.
reserves, how much do we put in? Is that our, when we do these projects, is it like 10% or what is it that comes out of reserves?
If we don't have grants, the entire would come out of those reserves.
We don't have grants.
Yes, the 100% would come out of the capital reserves.
And also I'd like to just add on to that, that our annual increase just for our union labor contracts is about $90,000 for the labor side as well. So we're really just trying to keep up with the cost of operating the systems with their annual increases.
1,400 people trying to keep up too.
Mhm.
Yep.
Agree.
Agree. So I think this will be discussed in detail more. I mean, well, opinions today, but when we do the rates in usually in November, 1st of December, here, December 3rd hearing, we'll come up with option A or option B or a different option that you guys decide looks better than any of these options.
I think in general, I don't know what between option A, B, or unnamed option, but in general, I would ask you to look at it as if you were a business person and say, am I actuarially sound? And my guess the answer is no, without help from ARPA money or a
Correct.
general fund
Mhm.
is my guess based on everything I hear. And so we get into a bind overall if we don't reflect the real costs of things.
Mhm.
So I would recommend try and get to the real cost of things. You may not get there in one jump.
No.
Yeah. And I know I don't like to raise stuff. I get that, but
Yeah.
also I don't want these people's systems to fail, right?
Correct. Exactly.
So I get that,
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah, we're still looking at our,
Kind of disappointed that we didn't start doing reserves earlier, so we didn't even have this conversation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's possible, if you look at projects down the road and we raise it, can we sunset it in 7 years, or can we do that? You know what I'm saying? Would it build enough to kind of match what we have?
correct.
The problem
That's
is,
just a question or
the
something.
problem is your customer base is so small. You can put money in for reserves, which you should do just as regular business practice.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to fund very many projects, even after 20 years. I mean, it's too small. There are two programs with your favorite federal government
Yeah,
that
I get it.
is available for rural or urban type developments in rural areas. Particularly if we can identify reduced income levels.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So one is the Community Development Block Grant
Mhm.
Funds, which we've used typically for things like services like Meals on Wheels. But there's a whole nother community infrastructure program that is tied into lower incomes. And again, I apologize for going back to my experience on the city council. We had the entire Highlands area that had I horrendous problems because all of their sewer lines collapsed. And of course, the state won't allow you to do anything beyond the property line. But we got it because it was low income area. That neighborhood qualified for CDBG funds that paid for those privately owned parts of the sewer lines. Interesting, we discovered that it was the result of dishwashers installed, hot water. And the pipes weren't true pipes. They were creosote impregnated paper tubes.
That Orangeburg, right?
Yeah, and the hot water just, they eventually collapsed. So anyway, there is that. But the other one that is probably even more appropriate for both Camelot and Riderwood in particular is well, I can't remember the name of the program, but it's the Department of Agriculture. Who would know? But they've got a whole bunch of infrastructure money that should be available because, gosh, we're not alone. I mean, there are little communities like this all over the country, and it's designed to help meet that cost because the numbers are too small and they can't afford to pay it. That's why it wasn't done originally by the government, because the private guy said that they would do it. And both of those are examples of private systems that could not keep up with the revenue because the income levels are too.
And I know that the last big project I was referring to, the one in Riderwood, that was a CDBG project because I was at the city of Kelso when they won that grant, and Kelso didn't get one that year because they were only doing one in Cowlitz County. Because Kelso has used CDBG funds for sewer replacements and laterals up in North Kelso in areas that had the same income level benefits. So
Longview has over, I think the magic number is 50,000. And they get their own CDBG fund allocations. Didn't have to compete with anybody. We have to compete with the rest of the state, and we've gone through that challenge. But yeah, so there may be other ones, but I think those are two that we really need to look at, particularly for these low-income neighborhoods that are rural in nature, and they just don't have the customer base to have it pencil out. They shouldn't have been permitted to begin with, but can't do anything about that.
Hindsight, right? I know I'm tight on that, and I'm really not opposed to it. Like it sounds, I just want to be able, if somebody says, what'd you do that for? I want to be able to intelligently tell them, we have systems that we think we're along a lifeline here, that we're going to have some issues that we're trying to get I want to have an intelligent answer instead of because we can, right?
Correct. Yeah, let me actually give you a bullet point list of what we look at the future for the next 10 years, what projects we're going to have to do and a dollar amount attached to them, which is helpful for you when you discuss this with
So
citizens.
that's really what I'm asking. The fact that we're number 3 in this and we're pretty low doesn't mean anything
No.
to me.
Yeah. We just want to show you that for comparison because a lot of people have no idea what our rates are compared to other people out there. And this is the low end of the other rural customers.
You might want to consider actually having one of these meetings out in Riderwood and have the department then share that information. Make that report close to where the people live that are directly impacted.
We've done that in the past.
And you have 2 new commissioners that can also, they need to get that background information too,
Correct.
just a part of their regular orientation.
And if I'm a customer and I understand what the system is, I'm not going to really bellyache too much because I know what's coming down the line. What if I don't do it, might save me for a year, but then I can't flush or I can't turn on a tap, and they understand that type of stuff. So they will understand if we have the correct explanation.
I'm a little bit uncomfortable with grants just because you end up let me preface it. Don't misunderstand me. You should go after all the grants you possibly can get. But I would rather see something that, again, tries to reflect as closely as possible the real costs of operation and maintenance. If you could start out primordially, you would take, we're going to have 2,000 homes here, and we're going to need these treatment plants, and you go for a bond and you build a plant and you pay the bond with the income from the users, and that makes sense. the further away we get from a rational price basis, this nation's falling apart because of that,
Mhm.
because nobody knows what things really cost because they don't see the $35 trillion in
Yeah.
stuff.
And I agree with that approach. You do it based on what you bring in. Then if you get the grants, what's the benefit? Well, we don't have rate increases for down
Correct.
the road.
Right.
You know, so they are gonna get some benefit.
Yeah. And we can give you a real cost, like you mentioned earlier, like if we want to fully fund, not think we're going to get any grants down the road for these projects that Susan mentioned, what would the rate be? It's not 180, it's 360 or whatever that number is.
Right,
We
right.
know we're not going there, but what is the real cost to keep ahead of these projects? If there wasn't ARPA funds, if there wasn't grants involved?
It's kind of, it's a little bit like the pay stubs that list the employer's contributions to healthcare and, Social Security and all those things. And all of a sudden, every employee realizes that they cost a heck of a lot more than just their paycheck.
I know.
And you could have a bill that also does that. And the final number that they pay is after their per capita share of the grants, for example. So they still have a cost figure, and you realize, your government's at work for you, I guess. I think providing them with the information is absolutely appropriate.
Yeah.
I like that idea because my gut tells me you're not going to be able to get there in one number and treat the population.
No.
But I'd say honestly, they've been
Yeah.
led to believe certain things, and this will help
Mhm.
do that. And it may take you 5 years to get to.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been doing 3% for the last so many years. We've been in public works, and you just maintain your, like I said, your O&M cost, only your labor cost increases, but you're not really gaining too much, even though we put in some to reserves every year, 750,000. These projects are not hundreds of thousands of dollars. These projects are millions of dollars per
Yeah.
project.
Of course, if it takes 5 years, you have to do the public education all over again.
Mhm.
That help at all?
Yeah, for sure. Good enough for you? Okay.
That light on. Moving on from water sewer onto our equipment requests. Motor pool, we had the sheriffs that we brought earlier this year for the 4 patrol vehicles. Those,
Sean, you want,
oh, sorry, Dennis,
I'm sure Dennis is on that, right?
page 6.
So Dennis, those 2 pages you have in front of you are projects, are purchases we had in 2025.
Well, I was just looking for Rick's picture. I don't see it. Page 6, thank you.
So we're back on the equipment request motor pool with the sheriff's office, wrecked sheriff vehicle on there.
They tell me to use real pictures, so that was the best one I could find.
Yeah,
Who was-
because your
Who was
picture-
driving that rig? I'd like to give him a bad time.
I think that was a year or two old.
Was sheriff in there? I think sheriff was in there.
So thank you for that previous approval. Those have been ordered. And so we should see those in a few months from now. On the landfill, we have our every year undercarriage rebuilds, every 5,000 to 8,000 hours. Undercarriage of one of our D7s or D8s is usually rebuilt. That's the average lifespan. And so it is an item that's on here almost every year. We also asked for a used excavator. Our current excavator we've been limping along for a few years, trying to get as much white smoke out of it as possible. And I think it's going to be coming to an end soon. And that's a similar item for the mechanic truck. I think you've seen this in prior years before. We've kept limping it forward, making it work. We're almost to the end of that as the white smoke coming out of that one is competing really good with that excavator right now.
And that used mechanic truck actually was a hand-me-down from Weyerhaeuser when we purchased a landfill in 2014. So it was quite old when we got it from Weyerhaeuser, and
Yeah.
it's past its life.
And it's a fairly large machine. It has a 10-ton crane on it, welders, air compressors, all kinds of things.
Well, they were working with log trucks and stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So
So this is a program that you have been collecting reserves all along so that the purchase price,
Correct.
unless there's some extraordinary increases that you didn't anticipate, you have the money to do that. We've done that in all the vehicles, police vehicles,
Correct.
except they do tend to get more expensive models from what you start spending money or saving for.
And, we recognize that there are a lot of good used vehicles that would fit our application up there, especially for the mechanics and the excavator. And so we want to be cognizant of that. The loop trailer might be something you haven't heard of before, and that's what I have a picture of on here today. We currently do not have the capacity within our vehicles to do a full lube oil change on the D8s or the compactors. So instead of trying to grow that mechanic truck larger, we're trying to think a little bit alternative and looking at a tow behind of some sort that would allow us to carry all the fluids and the waste fluids from those and still do pretty much an oil change, a significant one on the fill itself, and then get the machine back in there. Currently, we have Pearson Cat come help us.
Oh,
And so we would see that recouped quite quickly.
I didn't know if you had to take it into a shop or you had somebody to come out and do it, but
Mhm.
Yeah, it's once we moved to these bigger machines, it was past our capacity.
yeah.
Mhm.
How do they? Just because my favorite agency, how do you control any spill or anything when you're doing these machines?
You're talking about your networks?
Commissioner Weber, I didn't say it.
I know.
Yeah, so we have a good team up there. Roger's our on-site mechanic at the landfill, and him with the help of Pearson Cat on these larger changes, they have the capacity within their machines to extract and put the new oils in. And, they're dropping the belly
So they
pans
just
off.
suck- they have
Exactly.
something that sucks it out.
Mhm.
You're not opening it up. the
We're not
valve.
draining it by hand, it's vacuuming it out. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Gotcha.
What do you do with the old oil filters? Did they go in the landfill?
No, they all get through the oil recycler. Next up, we have roads. We do have the road striping truck listed here with a caveat. We want to come back in the spring and have a really good discussion on this. Mike?
Yeah, we were looking at return on investment. As you can see, it's a pretty big price tag of $800,000 to buy a striping truck. Our contracts are currently between $700,000, $800,000 per summer season to stripe our roads. We're looking now at about a return on investment about 4 to 5 years on that. That's not a big concern as us, it's just still the staffing side of it. And we still haven't felt 100% comfortable as a team, knowing that we have such a tight construction season in the summer with overlay, getting our roads ready for overlay and chip seal season, and then try to find a 6-week window to also stripe. If you have a really bad winter or a wet spring, you're dealing with road repair, culvert repair, and then you try and get your roads ready for the maintenance side. When do we actually stripe? And that's the concern. Return on investment of 4 to 5 years, we're pretty happy with that side, but it's the employee side of it. A couple other counties, of course, on the west side here stripe their own roads. We're going to discuss it a little bit more in the next month or two to figure out how it really works, how big of teams they have. We have an idea how big a team we need to do this. And it comes out to maybe 6 to 7 man crews to be able to stripe correctly and keep people off the wet paint. But it's like I said, it's a 6-week
Never
window
gonna
for us to be
happen.
able to do it.
I've seen it. That's never going to happen. People drive right.
Oh,
through
yeah,
it.
they do. Yeah, they're all over. So we left it in here knowing it's a smart investment. It's just a matter of staffing.
So you just kind of put it in as a placeholder.
Correct. If you guys are okay with that. And then if it's, I feel comfortable as a team. If we come back and say we just can't do it, we'll just exit out and take it out of the budget. We're concerned about pricing this out of stripe. We have to stripe our roads. It's
Mhm.
RCW or an ordinance, RCW.
Yes, it is an RCW and it's based on the MUTCD. Let's throw lots of acronyms around, especially for our arterials and collectors. They're required to have a certain retroactivity. So that is why this year, when we cut the roads back, we were trying to just hit our arterials and collectors because those are the ones that are required. And then the roads that were either chip sealed, overlaid, and then we found a few that are just dangerous without the stripe in the winter.
So we we're hoping to have a more permanent decision for you guys today. We don't like coming with ifs or ands or buts, but this is one of those ones that's a little bit more challenging. I mean, actually, we were just discussing it up to an hour ago, exactly. And we all feel the same way. It's like, it's hard to say, go for it right now. Plus, even if we decide to purchase this today and you said yes, we probably won't have it for next summer. And so we have a few months to figure it out because it's going to be a 2026 before we're able to use it. They're that far behind on getting these delivered to us. So with next year, no matter what, we'll have a contract in front of you for striping roads. So this gives us a little bit more time this winter to reach out to a couple other counties and figure it out as a team and visit more with the union and our sign shop who does a lot of our striping. They work with a striping contractor now. They get the roads ready. They lay out the roads to see if they're willing and hoping to maybe take us on as a challenge also. But like I said, people like their summer months, and we kind of killed our summer months other than like 2 or 3 weeks and said, now you have 2 or 3 weeks to go spend with your family before school starts back up. And now we be saying, no, we also need to stripe all our roads in the county, which is going to be a challenge.
So just to be sure I understand, one of the big concerns is you're going to have to hire new people to do the striping.
Might hire some seasonal help for flagging and buffer trucks around the striping truck, but for the most part, it'd be people trained on this truck would be current county employees.
Okay, so it is not hiring a whole bunch of new
No.
people. It may be contracting temps to do the flag holding kind of
Right,
stuff.
exactly right. Yep.
Sounds reasonable.
So what isn't going to be done that they're doing now? Or do you just have excess capacity?
That's concerned. I don't think we don't have excess capacity. And especially if we have a tough winter or spring where we're getting our roads ready, we don't, because we're hoping maybe there's some weeks you have in springtime that are great weather. It's like, gosh, we could be striping right now. But at the same point, they also have these other jobs they got to do at that point. So
So then the pressure on a future commission would be, well, we've got this equipment, we need to hire the people to,
yeah.
and that's kind of the back door, and that's probably getting what you were hinting at.
And the
If it
last thing we
doesn't
want to do
pencil
is,
out now, typically when we contract services out, it's because we don't have a full-time need for it. And that's a question that I thought about when you first suggested that. Oh, how's that going to work?
Yeah. And the city of Longview just recently purchased one, and we visited with Chris Collins, our public works director, 2 weeks ago about it, and they mainly stripe on nights and weekends. A couple different reasons because they also have their other work to do, so this is overtime for their crews, but also less traffic on the roads in the cities in the overnight. But I also got to worry about humidity levels, be able to get your paint down in the evening time and overnight. So, yeah.
So when you say payback you're just guessing maybe 5 years or something?
Yeah, we
like
looked at the cost, equipment, supplies, labor, correct, yeah, 4 to 5 years.
So,
Yep.
what kind of comparison curve are you using there? That is to say, you've got one cost line that's doing it how you normally do it now, and then the other cost line is buying your own equipment and all that, and you're hoping that they cross at some point where the new approach brings you below, and that's going to be pretty. I'm not optimistic that it'll be a positive answer.
Yeah, we've had a couple different models. We actually thought it might, someone would say 4 to 5, but there's certain times that we think it might be more like 8 to 9.
Like what?
8 to
Sorry?
9 years instead of 4 to 5 because of that different modeling and different unknown expenses that may come up, labor cost, if we have to work overtime. There's a lot of factors that went into looking at it. We felt comfortable 4 to 5, but we also know there's outliers that could have pushed us out further than that on the return on investment. And then, as Dennis mentioned, the pressure of doing it, if we have the equipment and we don't sign up a contract, because we usually have to sign that contract fairly early in the year to get on the striping schedule. If you're not on that striping schedule, then all of a sudden it's June and we find out we can't get our crews out because we have so many other things going on. What happens then when an emergency contract goes out, instead of paying $700,000, you might spend $1 million because you have to be squeezed into somebody's schedule. So there's a lot of concerns out there for doing it this way.
And there's enough time there that cost of money might mean something, and then risk factor, and so.
Correct.
I don't know, what, just off the top of your head, what crossover point would you'd feel comfortable with? 8 years?
I was hoping earlier than that. Sean?
Yeah, I mean,
I was thinking more like 5 to 6, I'd feel more comfortable with.
yeah.
Without any significant outliers, say, the truck blows up. As long as we are striping the entire county and not seeing any significant price increases on our paint products, our glass products, our staffing contracts, it would be easily 5 years, but until we see some sort of major maintenance project that was unknown to us at this time, that could also delay that.
So if we went path A, which is the path that we're on now, you figure we will spend the same amount as going path B at 5 years, and from then on, we make some money.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot more liability in the new path than in the old path, isn't there?
Yes.
Well, if you do the research, I suppose that factors into negotiating with the contractors, getting a better price. Because they're not giving you their cost, they're giving you their cost plus.
Well, for
That's
sure.
always negotiable,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, supplies alone to do our roads for paint and beads, we estimate it'd be about $450,000 just in supplies.
And that doesn't change.
No,
No.
that's not
Do
going to
that
go
whether we
down.
do it or yeah.
Well, if anything, it'll be more expensive because presumably the other outfit is buying in a
In bulk.
larger volume and have as a
Yeah.
relationship going.
Correct.
Although with paint, you can't quite store it. Can't buy too much in advance.
No, I wouldn't think so.
And of course, I see those nice sized diesel tanks. And we know the price of diesel is about ready to plummet, depending on November 5th. That changes the formula because fuel prices have been a big factor in
Correct. Yeah.
cranking up every price tag, so.
So if you're all right with us keeping it in there, knowing that there's a chance we're going to not move forward with this project? Or
Just a place-
purchase.
Just a placeholder, right?
Correct, yeah. And then a mini excavator for the roads?
Thing you have a healthy reserve so that you're not taking money away from a project to
Correct.
hold the place.
Yeah, so next up is a mini excavator. We currently have one throughout roads. We've seen the use of that go up significantly, either with the roads department itself, either at water sewer, parks, the shooting range, or even at the landfill. We've used it significantly, and there's a lot of times we want to use two. And so at this point, we'd like to ask for a second one. This would be half roads, half landfill. And it'd be about $85,000.
Arn, I don't know about you, but this is beyond my level of expertise. I think I just as soon rely on the chairman's good judgment on
How
whether
many,
that's a good deal.
how big a machine do you do?
I think it's a 12,000 pound machine.
12,000 pound?
Yeah.
machine? Yeah,
Not too big, but not too
Yeah.
small.
yeah,
And
right.
I'm sure it needs to be test driven.
No,
Probably does.
I'm sure there's somewhere we
Are
could
these
look at
ones
it.
you order with the regular wheels? Because you work them on the roads? Yeah.
I'm sorry. Those are the bigger ones. These will have rubber tracks.
These will have rubber tracks. Yeah.
Actually track.
Yeah.
I don't know, in my expert opinion, you just need a Bobcat.
Little skid steer.
And then the last equipment items from ER&R, it's a replacement of our pickup brooms. We currently run 2 Elgin sweeper brooms that pick up materials. We are up to replace one of those, and we rented this Temco for
Where are you?
Page 7, last item.
Right beneath that striping machine picture.
We're still on the striping.
Still on the equipment request, yes, sir.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
And so the Elgins are aging out and it's time for replacement. We did rent this unit during the summer for our chip seal program. The crews were really happy with it. And lucky they were willing to give us a discount for the following year because we rented it this year. And so this is a reduced price.
Yeah, I believe it's around over $300,000, but they apply all our rental rates
Mhm.
to the purchase price of that piece of equipment. And it was pretty much brand new when we got it.
Yes, sir.
So we'll still come with the same warranty.
Speaking of chip seal, I was gonna tell you, you guys did a great job. Brother and I were riding. It would have been Pacific County, like from Raymond to Montesano. And they'd done a chip seal project and we're going along on the bikes and all of a sudden, dink, you know, where they come together. and
Oh,
so they
yeah.
didn't do the-
Yeah.
I said, well, them people didn't know crap. what they were doing."
So how does that work with our bidding laws, getting a cut rate? Because you get the credit applied against the rental.
That'd be a sole source then at that point in time for a used product.
Okay, so the law allows you to pick the.
And then the last page on here is our ER and R rates for 2025. We did do a little rearranging in here from prior years, so you will see some blank spaces in 23 and 24, specifically around distributors, fifth wheel tractors, and our heavy trailers. Those trailers you saw on the picture, we have enough of them now that it made sense to put them into a category instead of charging those as individual items. In the distributor and fifth wheel tractors, we made the decision that it didn't make sense to run them together. And so we split those apart and that did help the rates for both of those. Across the board, we see fairly small increases except for the graders. Those are fairly low hour machines. And so as those larger repairs on those come through, it does spike those rates a little bit. But overall, we're looking about 1.5%.
And these are mainly charged for internal rates. Sometimes we do work for outside agencies. They'll get charged this amount, but this is mainly for internal purposes for us for replacement.
So how much of the cost do we expect to recover from the rates? Is that 100% replacement cost?
Yes, sir. 100%
Or is
expected
it
replacement.
just to accumulate the reserves for the next purchase?
So we plan these out 20 years in the future for all replacements across the type. So for example, the 1B, the 10-yard dump trucks, we're going to be planning out for the replacement of all those and all the maintenance on those, including fuel.
So in 20 years, we're hoping to have enough, there'd be enough reserves to buy a new one. And then it's always a changing fluid document because we get updated pricing on equipment and it has to go back through in certain years. We say, hey, we don't have enough reserves. We have to bounce a couple more years, or we may get a piece of equipment that's working well. And even though we have the full reserves on it, we can bounce it out a few more years before we purchase it. Just because it's at end of life on paper doesn't mean it's at end of life in real life. So these also get presented on December 3rd.
These will also be part of the rates in December, correct?
All of this goes before a public hearing?
Mhm.
And people will have, how many people are gonna be paying attention, do you know?
Usually 10 people in the room.
Mhm.
Yeah, for your water sewer rates, of course, it'd be probably a little bit more people online possibly, but in the room here is usually lightly attended. Especially if these rates here really don't affect the citizens.
Yeah, right.
So line 18, the chip spreader, are those rates, is there a typo in there? There's $100 drop. in the
Yeah.
rates?
So this is our chip spreaders. Unfortunately, they are not a high hour item. They are in the low 200s to 300 hours a year. And so as that average swings, so we do a 3-year average on use hours, a 5-year average on maintenance on that. So that we're trying not to get the peaks and valleys, but unfortunately, this one is such a small value, a few $1,000s across the low 100-hour usage through the year does bring those swings in.
And who are your typical outside users?
It's usually another department.
Oh, still within the family, so to
It's
speak.
very rare that we'll see another agency, but occasionally maybe the city needs to borrow something or maybe Turwa or someone of that nature. Another governmental agency.
Yeah.
A lot of people I think the only question we usually get during public hearings when they see the rates there, the citizens may ask if we can rent to them.
Yeah.
Can I have the 10-yard dump truck for?
Yeah.
That's the conclusion of our Public Works review, unless you guys have any more questions. If not, we'll move on to the 5-year capital plan for facilities maintenance, which would be this document here. And we'll follow that up with the CIP projects, which is the last document of the day.
So this document should look fairly familiar to y'all. We've seen it for a few years now. The upper section is pretty standard, lines 1 through 9. This can be our small projects and medium-sized projects that come out through the year. Lines 10 through 12 are going to be our roofs. The annex roof is, I think, recently completed.
It's be completed this week. I talked to the contractor this morning.
Fantastic. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get the admin roof done this year, so it is on 25 as well for this building. For lines 13 through 15, we have some parking lots in here. Of course, the admin building north and south parking lots, the courtyard between the two buildings here, and then the museum parking lot in 26. Lines 16 through 22 are going to be a little bit more variety of items. 17, continue to upgrade our door locks at Hall of Justice and other buildings. The fire panels at both juvie and juvenile. The evidence storage room for the sheriff's office. A redesign for the auditor's office, and then trying to get all that ivy out of the Hall of Justice still. 23 and 24, we still have our designs for seismic upgrades here. And then 25 and 26 are going to be HVAC related. The 26 is the Millig project that we've been talking about in the past, and 25 is for the juvenile office.
Tell me a little bit more about the auditor's remodel.
Yeah.
Savannah Clement, Public Services, Public Works. So the auditor's office design was actually a previously submitted CIP project from a prior year. I think it was before we took over facilities. And when we started meeting again on the new CIP committee, it was brought to our attention that that project had been submitted, scored by the committee, and recommended to bring to the board for approval. And that was not done. So instead of rolling it over into a new category, a new budget year, we decided to put it into our 5-year plan because of the prior approval from that committee. The project, from my understanding, I did not do the walkthrough, actually Mike and Sean did, is to redo a lot of their front office area to make it more ergonomic, customer friendly. I don't know if you guys want to chime in.
Yes, moving the front counters closer to the front door and giving more office space behind there and not such a large lobby space. But it's not such an easy move. We have a lot of pillars, marble, HVAC. There's a lot of problems moving that forward. Not to say problems, but issues, costly. So I think this first $65,000 is pretty much to get it designed moving forward, and probably come back to the board at that point there for final approval if this first 65 gets approved.
Mhm.
I believe that was submitted, I
2019.
was gonna say
2020?
it's 5 years ago and got approved. It just never moved forward.
It just strikes me that we've done a lot of remodeling in that, but I guess a lot of it's just plexiglass and
Correct.
glass.
Yeah.
And the elections.
Yeah, and correct. Yes, elections did get a remodel. The auditor's office, I think a lot of it is, as you mentioned, was more, modular cubicles and plexiglass, maybe new chairs. So this would be definitely a significant change there from what they've had.
And so most years we do quite a few items that are on the budget list. We did quite a few items from 2024, hoping to complete a lot of these items for 25, but also knowing, usually sometimes first things that get cut, as we know, is on the maintenance side and some capital projects. So I kind of leave it up to you guys for discretion of what projects may be on this list that down the road, if Kathy comes forward and says there needs to be some general fund cuts, if anything on this list would have to go forward first. We're aware of that.
So I do have a question that's not quite exactly a CIP project. It appears that we have abandoned cars, at least in one location. I don't know if that's been brought to anybody's attention at facilities maintenance.
And what location is that?
It is on the street, the diagonal 30-minute parking right where the Ivy starts. There's a space. There's 30 minutes parking. It's angle in parking, so it's right at the street. So it's not really. I don't know who takes care of that because it's Kelso City Street.
Street, yeah.
But it's our parking. So unless our wages have fallen, I don't think we have employees that duct tape windows. So it's been parked there for quite some time.
So it's been there when you show up and there when you leave in the evening time?
And the next day and the next day.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, it's been about a week and a half.
We can have
Because
our,
I park in that parking lot down there, and so
Okay.
I'm always walking by it and it's, oh, okay.
we can work with our deputy sheriff. He's really good about taking cars and getting things out of the right of way, but he can work with the city of Kelso at the same point and help remove a vehicle.
What I also want to be sensitive to is the church has their
Correct.
family promise program,
Mhm.
and some of those clients do have cars. But this one doesn't seem to have been moved. That's what I'm
It
wondering.
wouldn't be as quick as like just towing away. That it's usually a contact and get a story first before there'd be a impound of any sort. So we can at least reach out to him and ask to do the starting point to see who it belongs to.
And we did have the RV on the road down by that parking lot. That was last year, and I got hauled away somehow.
We have probably one RV a month that we tag. We get a lot of boats, mainly dropped off trailers because the trailer's worth something, but the old fiberglass boat's worth nothing. A few cars, but it's mainly RVs and trailers that we deal with on the right of way.
And the new Hulk business is working.
Correct. Yeah. Right now, Carl's Towing is the one that removes them for us after it's been tagged for the appropriate amount of time. And then it goes to, the Carl's Towing takes it. Then I believe they are using the gentleman off
Can't
Tenant
remember.
Way.
I don't even know the name of the business. Howard's Reclamation
Howard's,
Service
yeah.
or something?
Yep.
Okay.
He's got a lot of RVs there.
He does. He does. It's actually pretty unsightly, but it's hard to see from the highway.
Yeah.
You got to know where to look.
Yeah.
But once you look, you can't help. You always look.
Notice, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No, the one item on here, juvenile roof replacement, number 11, as when we first started doing this 5-year capital plan a few years back, we keep pushing it a little bit. You guys, most of you walked to that facility, the buckets are in the hallway. I don't know the long-term plan of using that facility for what it is now or something different. At a certain point, we are probably going to do something to that roof before we get any more structural damage done there. So I don't know how much further we could push that out, but it's not a cheap fix there. It's between the 2 years, $2.5 million.
Well, probably whether we found additional uses for, or not. If you're gonna be in it, the roof's gotta be fixed, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's a ballast roof. It has a lot of tons of rocks on that
Yeah.
structure.
Yeah.
Probably won't do it the same way the next time.
Well, I think we decided that we'd be better off building a separate structure for what we'd originally
Yeah.
had that plan for. So I think reuse is sort of off the table.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't bring adults in there. And we don't have the kids to.
Yeah.
Too bad you can't re-roof half.
Yeah. The way it's built. Yeah. Offices on one side with the other parts.
Right,
Yeah,
right, yeah.
you're right. Item number 16 on here is the CIP committees. They get, I don't want to say get, but allocated $250,000 a year for tenant improvements. And the last handout you have talks about the CIP projects that were discussed earlier this year. Savannah's done a lot of work with this committee, and I'll let her kind of take over. There's 5 projects that they've earmarked for the 2025 budget.
Thank you. So normally the CIP process starts with a call for submissions in January. So in this case, it was early this year, 2024. And we're asking the departments to submit their CIP requests on a form explaining their need, how it meets certain or doesn't meet health and safety requirements, aesthetic requirements, how it would improve business and public service, et cetera. We had several submissions this year. A couple of them, didn't make the listing because they may not have been eligible, or maybe they were on a capital plan already. So these are the ones that were reviewed by the CIP committee, scored, ranked, and approved to move forward to the board. So at this point, we are asking, the board at least give a head nod to move forward in the budget cycle for final approval. The first submission on here, which is just that second page here, is flooring replacement for 3 departments. So the sheriff's office, DEM, and records. And so we just had a couple pictures of here, the current state of their carpet at the Hall of Justice. This is in 2 different divisions, but we did have pictures for all 3. And it's in pretty poor shape. The project estimate for this one is $65,000. And the intent of the project is to remove the carpet and the cove base and install new flooring in base.
Is anything being used in the old 911 center? It's just big empty room? That
That is currently vacant. We do have plans to move forward on some remediation and carpet tile removal. If you recall, it's the elevated tiles over a lot of wiring. That is currently not on this plan or a CIP project, but it will be moving forward. I think that'll kind of, we'll start working on that probably first quarter of this year. We started to this summer, I would say early summer, and then we had some of the north stairwell issues that we started tackling first instead of that area. But that is on our radar to address.
No prospects for alternate uses?
I do think there are prospects. Once we get the space, cleaned, remediated to an extent with paint, and then the carpet replaced. Additionally, there is no heating and cooling in that area. It's completely failed. So we'll have to also improve or replace the heating and cooling down there. And then we do have some interest. I haven't talked to him in quite a while, but Sheriff Thurman indicated there may be a use for his group. I also have been considering that space potentially for space when we're moving departments around for the HVAC replacement project, because it is a large space. We do have 24-hour divisions. We may need to rehome once we're able to into that space. Okay. Any questions on the flooring replacement request? Just moving on to the page 2. We had a law enforcement memorial submission from the Sheriff's Department that was also approved. This project estimate is approximately $36,000, and this is truly an estimate. We haven't done, as far as our memory goes, any type of memorial project from a facility standpoint. So we are anticipating that the cost be approximately $36,000, but it really depends upon the design and materials. So just wanted to make sure that the board was aware of that. So I do have a picture up top here. It would actually be going in what was a fountain area. We actually had to block that off and turn off the water. It's currently collects garbage, trash, and other, items, undesirable items. So we were kind of hoping to clean this up, make it more safe, and actually install some type of law enforcement memorial. I did grab kind of just an example down below in that picture. That's not the design, obviously, but something to that extent in that space.
Yeah, you won't be able to duplicate that design
I don't
for
think so.
36 grand.
Yeah.
No, but
Fortunately.
yeah, right.
And today we're giving a summary, Savannah, of these 5 projects. Each of the departments that submitted these CIP projects are available next Wednesday. They said they'd come to our 1:30 Wednesday meeting next week. If you guys have additional questions, comments, they'd be available next week for you.
But the memorial actually is an opportunity for public fundraising. That would be an issue
Was
that people would probably be glad to kick in money for.
Sheriff,
If there's statues
Mhm.
involved or plaques, once you get the design established, then get the cost estimate at 250, you need to be able to raise that money to get this sculpturing done.
Sheriff Thurman offered
just
the
for-
same thing.
Just for reference, if a statue is in the design, the life-size statue of Sacagawea at the Lake Sacagawea, that was 60 grand.
Can you say that one more time?
That was 60 grand. Yeah,
60 grand?
60, yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, if you do sculptures, it's going to be pricey.
There was some.
But again, it's also kind of an attractive thing for the public to participate in. Probably sponsored by the sheriff's office.
Yeah, Sheriff Thurman, again, provided the same information that he does think there'd be some in-kind volunteer donations and material donations that would help compensate for the price.
He's been fairly good at raising money from the 3 of us, but
Any other questions on the law enforcement memorial submission? Okay, only a few more left. So we have also courtroom 8 remodel request, and this was submitted by district court. We estimate this project to be approximately $31,000, and it would involve essentially remodeling what they call courtroom 8, and that would include new carpet, new base, and then also some better modular units that also include some doors for privacy. Molly is here, not to pick on her, but she's been here. If you guys have any questions specific to district court, they have one other submission that's included. If you want any anecdotal evidence.
once you get into modular construction, though, the price goes up as opposed to just replacing carpeting and wallpaper, right?
So when I say modular, I should say modular cubicle panel system, something of that nature. So not actual physical walls, but more similar to the auditor's office, what they have, or if you've been in the PA's office, they have like the floor to ceiling cubicles that make, more privatized, like private offices. A little bit better sound, not as good as walls, obviously, but more of that. And is that what you were anticipating, Molly?
Hi there. We do use one of the spaces as an extra jury room.
An
Which is
extra,
jury room,
oh, jury.
which is
you
difficult
said
to do if
jewelry.
we
Yeah,
don't
I see.
have full soundproof. So I don't know what kind of system we're looking at, but I'm open to anything. But right now, we already, if you see the picture, we have a temporary wall we use for several years. We've kind of been using it as a Zoom courtroom. That's what courtroom 8 is there. Occasional jury room use, occasional meeting room, but we can only do one of those things at a time, the way it is because of sound. So it's a large space that could fit 3 separate spaces in it, but we don't have walls.
So the cost estimate is for the planning, or is that?
I don't know.
That's
My,
for-
my request was
Mm.
really just, I want 3 spaces and then I've left it up to the.
Yeah, so
middle.
the approximation is for panel systems and flooring. That's it. No walls, no design component. With the Hall of Justice requests is from, just a project coordination standpoint, we're trying to obviously keep costs low, not do any long-term fixtures, walls, HVAC, electrical work. Just because the nature, moving forward is, we're not 100% sure. So
And I think that carpet is original,
I think
which
so.
isn't, if you look at it closely,
Yeah.
it's not fully covering the whole floor.
It's like a dark avocado
Yeah.
color.
I was gonna say, it would have to be green or orange if it
It's
was original,
it's
right?
green and orange almost. I mean, it's got like a little bit of both.
It was quite stylish back in the day.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was. Yes.
And the next one is also a district court request. It was approved and it is for, we're calling it a hallway refurbish. We will be removing again carpet and the cove base and reinstalling new flooring and cove base in addition to removing the old wallpaper. And you can see it's peeling up and there are carpet stains. So we'll be looking at replacing those, not with new wallpaper, but with paint. A lot of that will be done as far as the painting goes in-house with maintenance staff, so. And that was for $28,000 approximately. Molly, you're up there. Do you want to say anything on that one? I mean, it's pretty,
Just
Cut and dry.
in, some original antiques on the walls there that, our jury public does walk by that every day to get from the back of the courtroom to the jury room. So it just would be nice to have it a little bit less ragged looking.
thank you.
Is Courthouse Square the building that's not a good building, right? Yeah.
That's,
Trying to make
thank
it
you,
a little
Molly.
more presentable.
So the last one, Commissioner Dahl referenced was, we're calling the vestibule at Courthouse Square. And this building is the building that's located, if you're looking at the jail, it's directly to the left. And it currently houses our drug court program. And then we have other entities, I believe Offender Services uses some of the office space there. And then we also have our contracted health provider that has an office at that spot as well. So what they have requested to do is, if you can see in the picture, there's that in the foyer area. Essentially, when they walk through the door, anybody from the public can access the entire building. So what they've asked to do is just put a wall in underneath that, I guess, overhang of the second story there and a door so that they can have an office or lobby area that can be, weather, people can get out of the weather and they can come in. Currently, they actually keep that front door locked at all times because of the incidents of people kind of wandering around. If you've been in there recently or at all, it's a funky setup. It's different. The layout's odd. The stairways are odd. It's just, and to have people wandering around can be probably a little unnerving. So that's the request, is to put in a wall and a door to where people can come in and wait to be escorted upstairs. The cost estimate of this is actually pretty low because a lot of the maintenance will be completed by, again, in-house facilities maintenance technicians. The biggest cost will be the new door. And they had already purchased the remote lock unlock. So that they purchased that from their own funds previous year. That would be used on this construction.
Well, since I've been here, we've always been told that this is a building that needs to be torn down. And so there's not been much done to upgrade and keep it in shape. So the question is it still not adequate to serve? Are we gonna muddle it along, or do we need to bite the bullet and say, find another location, tear it down, either sell the property or build an appropriate
Yeah.
building?
We've toured that a few times, actually looked at the structure, looked at the roof, like the windows, that there's some dry rot in certain spots in that structure. It was just, we're looking at before this CIP request came in, looking at the cost of replacement or where to put drug court and what to do with that lot. We're going to do a little bit of work to the exterior of that structure. We've already taken out some trees around it, try to get a little more daylight in that facility, replace gutters, do a few smaller items on there. But that's a big a decision we'll have to make, and it might be, had to be made before we move forward with this project here, what to do with drug court and what to do with that structure. Initially, we talked about enough that if we had something different there, even if it's a modular, it's close to jail, use the existing parking lot there. Parking's challenging at that courthouse square. Or like, yeah,
Yeah,
there's
there's like
really 5 or
3
6 spots there and it's challenging to get out.
And
Yeah,
isn't that the building we have kind of a communications conflict with an owner who's not willing to let us cut crossover?
Yes.
yeah.
A retired Indian chief or something.
There
like
is,
that.
yes, a chief dull knife and it's literally like a 15 by 40-foot strip of land that is in that.
Very long, narrow triangle.
Very long
right?
and narrow, so we can't go any further to the south there. And the courthouse square, I didn't know this until we did a couple tours, was actually, I don't know, Commissioner Weber, but if you recall this, but it was actually like built with volunteer labor from judges at that time, which is why they call it Courthouse Square. And they, I think, paid for a lot of the materials and then donated it to the county. So it explains a lot of how it was built and why, certain materials may have been used, which maybe, if we would have hired it out, that wouldn't have been the case. So there's some history there, and their use for currently, I don't want to speak for them, but I know that they're housing drug court there, now, and that's really the only department that's in there.
It's a challenging setup, just the way it was
It is.
built and where the offices, the layout's not the best for business.
So it would not even be adequate if we went ahead with this residential juvenile treatment center. And that wouldn't be a good spot for that either. It's just too narrow and landlocked.
I guess that would depend
Not seeing
on,
the footprint of what you're looking for.
what you're looking for.
Yeah. If something long, narrow, multiple stories, we might be able to work there.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting concept to co-locate drug court with next to a
Mhm.
juvenile treatment center. But
So no final
the only
decisions
reason I'm asking
today.
questions is, if it's not in very good shape, we're throwing good money
No,
after bad. and-
Yeah.
and
We've discussed that in-house, yeah.
But, and these were driven by submissions and CIP review, and we bring those forward to this group from the committee. But what I can do also is have Adam Pithen, who did the submission, attend a 1:30 workshop, as Mike mentioned, to maybe further explain some of the needs of that building to the board. And I know Danielle Paul with Superior Court had also shown support of this project because they oversee drug courts. So I think she had an interest in attending as well.
I have it on pretty good authority, though. There's an office suite that's available if we need to move drug court. Used to be a bunch of lawyers.
And we can also try to get some estimates.
That would be a temporary solution in lieu of.
Very temporary.
Very temporary.
Major.
I'll see if we have a project coordinator that can go through that facility and give us some estimates of repairs to get that building up to speed. So if we decide to go forward with this as a committee or a BOCC, we can,
Yeah,
might help your decision-making there.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Good. Thanks for sharing with us.
The last page is just a summary. That each of these were submitted by individual departments, reviewed and scored by the committee per policy. And then the total project costs are approximately $180,000 as submitted and per our estimates. And then a reminder that the tenant improvement budget line item is for $250,000. So all of the projects are below the budgeted amount that was approved.
But still up to BOCC.
So still,
approval.
yeah,
Yeah.
that we propose that could still be approved.
Sorry, we took a full hour and a half.
You did say we had all the time, Mike. He
I
said
know,
that
I
in the
always-
beginning.
Anytime we can get an hour and a half presence from district court, I think is awesome.
Questions?
Question?
So we'll be available next week, next Wednesday at 1:30. If you have more thoughts of what you've seen today, bring it forward. Like I said, if you want, we could have the people that submitted CIP projects online or in person next week if you have questions directly to them, or email them ahead of time.
I do need to express my apologies for being late. I had forgotten, but I was networking with the folks at the CEDC. So our lobbyists and other folks. So sorry. Hope I didn't miss too much.
Mr. Counting down the days, actually working.
So I have one public works item other than the agenda, if
Okay.
that's right with you guys. Just real fast update on West Longview recycling.
Yeah.
We went back to our old location because we couldn't find a new location. No one was really willing to give up a spot for us. So it's a spot on 432 between Willow Grove Road and Ocean Beach
Okay,
Highway.
now we can talk about her.
So we cleared a lot of brush. We are in process of probably, I think it's today, we're going to pave that lot. We're adding light poles in this week, cameras and lights. And we're going to do a good press release and social media and give it one more try. Kind of tell people to police themselves and say, hey, if it gets to the point it was before, we're going to close it down permanently. But we're going to give we think we know West Longview needs a place for recycling.
Yeah.
We hear about it. So we're going to, without finding a home, we just figure we improve this one as best we possibly can, open it back up, and then go from there.
Well, I'll tell the people that really want that back that they need to citizen patrol it and keep it clean.
Correct. So.
Well, it'd be interesting to see if you can get a coffee stand in there. Drop off your recycle and pick up some coffee.
True.
And then you'd have somebody to police it.
Yeah. That's what we thought. Willow
I
Grove.
don't think there's anything
be
like
great.
that anywhere as close, is there?
Is it Mr.
There-
Bill's or
there-
something
there-
out there across from Baker's Corner? Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Bills, I think.
Isn't Mr.
Yeah.
Bill's? Yeah, I think that's, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So we're hoping to open that up in 2 or 3 weeks.
Wow.
So we've already reached out to Waste Control, make sure we had all the recycling bins available. And so once we're done with our minor projects out there, we'll get stuff in place and get notice out. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And no capping between the hours of 6 and 6?
The hope, yes. And like I said, the Willow Grove boat campground, or not campground, but park, we always thought would be the best location since they do have a camp host and shut gates at nighttime. But unfortunately, that fell through and did not work out. So
It's not currently fenced, is it? Is there a fence around it? Are you?
no,
planning a
there's
fence?
more just a part of its guardrail in that area on the innards.
Yeah, on the inside, I think there might have been some chicken wire to control
Yeah.
garbage, but that's it.
That's about it. Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking about homeless policies, and if it's not fenced, then it's pretty difficult to keep people from congregating there, even though it can be very comfortable, but most of the places they stay aren't very comfortable.
We haven't had that issue too much at our recycling centers. There's so much usually traffic. It's not usually a campsite. If they're going to camp or leave stuff in that area right now, it's usually down at the Coal Creek boat launch is where we get a lot of debris dumped and
A
boats.
little more
stuff.
hidden.
Exactly. Yeah. Even though we cleared a lot of the brush between Ocean Beach Highway and the boat launch, we still get a fair amount of stuff dropped down there.
Well, good news for recycling.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? You did see the notice that the Humane Society is selling to the Vancouver. I don't know exactly what that means. But my guess is the next contract is probably going to see increased rates that we'll have to figure out what we want to do with. But I'm sure there'll be more to come on that. Okay. Thank you. And we're done. So we will adjourn.
Right. Do I have to stay another 20 minutes?